Long ago, in the heart of the ancient kingdom of Umuazubu, there lived a princess whose name was known in every corner of the land. Adugo, daughter of King Eze Nnamdi. To the people of Umuazubu, Adugo was more than just royalty. She was a symbol of grace, wisdom, and rare beauty. Her presence commanded both respect and admiration. Elders blessed her from afar. Mothers prayed for their sons to find favor before her, and the younger girls quietly wished to grow into even half the woman she had become. But Adugo was not merely beautiful. Her words carried depth, her thoughts were sharp, and her silence often spoke louder than speeches. She was the only child of the king and queen, and by the customs of Umuazubu, whoever married her would be crowned the next ruler of the land. This meant that her choice of husband wasn't just a personal matter, it was a decision that could shape the destiny of an entire kingdom. So, as expected, men came from near and far, sons of warriors, traders with overflowing barns, scholars with scrolls under their arms, all came with hopes in their hearts and well-rehearsed speeches in their mouths. They arrived at the palace bearing gifts, boats of expensive clothes, baskets of rare fruits, gold ornaments, and words wrapped in flattery. But Adugo received them all with calm courtesy and quietly turned them away. Some left in confusion, others in quiet frustration. A few returned again, hoping the second time would be different. It wasn't. The palace began to feel like a marketplace of suitors. Every day someone new arrived, dressed in their finest, speaking their finest, but none of them touched Adugo's heart. She remained unmoved. Her parents, King Nnamdi and Queen Amaka, watched all of this with increasing concern. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and cast a golden glow over the palace walls, the king called his daughter into the inner court. The queen sat beside him, her eyes filled with the quiet questions of a mother. Adugo, my precious child, the king began, his voice calm but firm. You are the hope of this kingdom. You know what tradition demands. You cannot remain unmarried forever. We are not rushing you, but the people are beginning to whisper. Adugo looked into her father's eyes and then at her mother. There was no fear in her expression, only calm understanding. I know, Papa, she replied gently, and I am not ignoring my duty, but the man I marry must be more than a suitor with wealth or charm. He must be someone with vision, someone who can lead this kingdom into the future. The queen nodded slowly. And how will you know him? Adugo gave a small, thoughtful smile. I will test them, not by strength or status, but by wisdom. The king raised an eyebrow. What kind of test do you have in mind? Adugo stood up slowly, her silk wrapper flowing like water behind her. Give me a few days, she said. I will announce it myself. And with that, she walked away, not with pride, but with quiet purpose, the kind of purpose that changes stories and shapes kingdoms. King Nnamdi leaned back on his throne, watching his daughter disappear behind the palace curtains. She is her grandfather's blood, he muttered, and that means something unusual is coming. The queen sighed and smiled. Let us just pray the kingdom is ready for it. Days passed in the kingdom of Umuazubu, but the palace remained unusually quiet. The stream of visitors had slowed, and the people began to wonder what Princess Adugo was up to. She hadn't spoken a word about marriage since her conversation with her parents, but she had been thinking deeply. Each morning, she sat in the royal garden with a scroll on her lap and a calabash of palm wine beside her, not to drink, but because the aroma reminded her of her late grandfather, the former king, whose wisdom had shaped her mind from childhood. She remembered his words clearly. Adugo, beauty without sense is a trap, but wisdom, that is the bridge between a good ruler and a great one. It was in those quiet mornings, beneath the shade of the tall Iroko trees, that the idea came to her. Not a game, not a riddle, but a test, a task that would reveal the heart and the mind of any man who dared to desire the throne and her. The following week, a royal announcement was made across the kingdom. The king's messengers, dressed in red and gold, went from village to village, square to square, market to market, beating their gongs and declaring with firm voices, hear ye, the Princess Adugo has spoken. Whoever wishes to marry the daughter of the king and rule this kingdom must first build a bridge between the land of the rich and the land of dreams. The word spread like wildfire. People paused mid-trade, mid-sentence, mid-gossip. A bridge? Someone asked, blinking. Between where and where? Land of the rich and land of dreams? Another replied. Where is that? A boy asked, scratching his head. Maybe it's past the hills, or behind the river, or is it a place inside the sky? An old woman whispered. In no time, the entire kingdom was buzzing. Farmers talked about it while sharpening their hoes. Market women whispered about it while measuring pepper. Drummers even composed a beat for it. Back at the palace, Adugo watched from her balcony, amused by the confusion. She said nothing. She simply folded her arms and listened. She knew her task was already doing its job. It was separating the shallow minds from the deep ones. Meanwhile, King Nnamdi called another meeting with his daughter. Adugo, he said with a raised brow, what kind of task have you thrown into the wind? Do you want to marry a builder or a prophet? The queen chuckled softly. The people are already losing sleep. Adugo smiled gently. Let the one who understands the meaning of the task come forward. If none do, then they are not meant to rule this land. The king looked at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, he said. Let the foolish ones run, and let the wise ones think. Let's see what the wind will bring. And so the challenge began. Men from every part of the kingdom began preparing to build the mysterious bridge. They didn't understand what it meant, but they were determined to prove themselves no matter what. Some believed it was a test of strength, others a test of wealth, but Adugo knew the truth. This was a test of vision, a test to find the one who could see beyond the obvious. And far away, in a quiet part of the kingdom, a certain farmer, unnoticed by many, heard the news as he watered his vegetables. He didn't laugh. He didn't scoff. He simply wiped his hand on his wrapper and began to think. The kingdom of Umuazobu had never been so busy. From morning till night, the streets, markets, and village squares were filled with noise, not the usual laughter of children or bargaining of traders, but the urgent, restless sounds of men chasing after a dream they didn't even understand. The race to win Princess Adugo's heart and the throne had begun. Some suitors believed the task was purely physical. They gathered strong men, carried shovels, and began digging by the riverside, shouting instructions as if they were already kings. One noble man, Chief Mbakwe, even hired carpenters and masons from the neighboring kingdom. If it is bridge you want, he boasted loudly, I will build the biggest bridge that has ever been seen. He laid planks, mixed cements, hammered nails from morning till night, building a structure over the narrow village stream that goats usually jumped over with ease. On the other hand, some men took a different path. Several young warriors visited the native doctors at the edge of the kingdom, begging for secret charms that would help them perform magic and raise a bridge overnight. One man, desperate and confused, was said to have traveled into the dark forests to seek the help of an old sorcerer, offering all the yams from his father's barn. Even those who couldn't afford native doctors or sorcerers found their own ways. Some went to the village herbalists, asking for herbs that could open the eyes of the spirit, whatever that meant. Meanwhile, a few hopeful men decided to impress the princess with displays of strength. They lifted huge tree trunks, carried heavy stones on their backs, and paraded through the village as if muscles alone could build a future. Children laughed behind their mothers' wrappers. Old men shook their heads, sipping their palm wine under the shade of the trees. This one thinks marriage is a wrestling match, an elder said, chuckling. Another added, strength without sense is like a basket trying to carry water. Inside the palace, Princess Adugo watched it all unfold. From her royal balcony, she saw the digging, the building, the shouting, the boasting, and she simply smiled and shook her head. She wasn't laughing to mock them. She was smiling because their actions had clearly shown that they did not understand the task at all. They were chasing noise, not wisdom. She had hoped that one, just one, would stop, think, and ask, what did the princess really mean? But none did. At least not yet. The king and the queen too observed quietly, waiting to see if anyone would step forward with true understanding. As the days stretched into weeks, tiredness began to show. The strong men grew weary, the sorcerer's potions failed, the bridges they tried to build either collapsed or made no sense. One by one, the proud suitors gave up, defeated not by the difficulty of the task, but by their own shallow understanding. And while the entire kingdom grew tired and confused, somewhere in a quiet corner of Umuazubu, far from the noise and drama, lived a man few people paid attention to. His name was Obinna, a humble farmer with hands rough from years of work and eyes that carried the calm wisdom of someone who had spent more time listening than talking. People in the village knew him as the man who minds his farm. He hardly joined community quarrels and rarely came to the palace. Many assumed he wasn't interested in big matters, especially not in matters like marrying the princess. But Obinna was not like most men. When he first heard of the princess' challenge to build a bridge between the land of the rich and the land of dreams, he didn't laugh or run into the bush like the others. He didn't rush to fetch wood or seek magic. He simply sat. For days, he sat under the shade of his old mango tree, listening to the birds, watching the clouds, and thinking. He thought about the kingdom, about the rich and the poor. He thought about how some children were sent abroad to learn, while others in the same land couldn't even afford to buy a writing slate. He remembered how the wealthy feasted every week, while the poor prayed to find just one meal a day, and he began to understand what Adugo was truly asking. The bridge was not a physical one. It was an idea, a solution, a vision that could connect opportunity to potential, that could give every dream, whether born in a golden crib or on a dusty mat, a fair chance to grow. And so Obinna stood up. He washed his face, put on his cleanest clothes, not new, but well kept, and walked to the palace gates. The guards almost laughed. "You too?" one of them asked, his voice full of doubt. "Do you want to build the princess a bridge?" Obinna smiled. "Not with blocks and wood," he replied, "but I believe I know what she meant." The guards looked at each other. One of them scratched his head. "Wait here." A few minutes later, Obinna was standing before the king and the princess. He bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, Princess Adugo, I have not come to impress you with strength or stories. I have come because I believe I understand the bridge." The king raised his brow. "Go on." Obinna took a deep breath. "To bridge the land of the rich and the land of the dreams, we must create a path where every citizen, no matter their background, has access to tools that can make their dreams real. Education, skill training, access to the land and credit, and fair laws." He paused. The room was silent. "The bridge," he continued, "is a system, one that allows the rich to invest in the dreams of the poor, not out of pity, but because when the poor succeed, the kingdom grows stronger. If we can do this, then a child born in the poorest part of Umuazubu can grow up to become a leader, a builder, or even a king." Princess Adugo stared at him, her heart silently applauding. He had not only heard her words, he had understood her intention. The king leaned back, eyes glinting with admiration. "Young man," he said slowly, "return tomorrow. We shall gather the people, and you will speak again, this time to the entire kingdom." Obinna bowed again and quietly left. As he walked back to his farm that evening, the wind whispered through the trees and the sun slowly set behind the hills. For the first time in weeks, the princess smiled with relief. At last, someone had seen beyond the surface, and finally, Umuazubu had found more than a husband for the princess. They had found a man of vision. The next morning, the palace grounds were filled with people. From every corner of the kingdom they came, elders with walking sticks, traders with wrappers tied tightly around their waists, curious children, and even the same proud men who had once laughed at the task. All eyes were on the royal platform where the king and his daughter sat, waiting for the man who claimed to have found the bridge. Obinna stood beside them, calm and steady. He wore the same simple outfit he had worn the day before. No gold, no feathers, just a clean mind and a clear purpose. The king rose and lifted his staff. "My people," he said, "you all know why we are gathered. For months, suitors have come to win the heart of my only daughter, the future queen. But her task was clear. Only the man who can build a bridge between the land of the rich and the land of dreams will be worthy of her hand." He paused, letting the murmurs settle. "Today, one man has come, not with magic, but with understanding. Let him speak." Obinna stepped forward. The crowd went silent. "My people of Umuazubu," he began, "we have built many things in this kingdom, mighty walls, fine roads, and strong gates, but what we have not built is a way for our people to rise." A few heads nodded. "What is the land of dreams?" he asked. "It is not a strange place far away. It is here, in the hearts of our young people, in the minds of those who wake up every day hoping to become something more. But without access, those dreams remained locked away." He continued, his voice steady and clear. "We have wealth in this land, yes, but it sits in the hands of a few. What we need is a bridge, not made of wood and rope, but made of systems. Systems that give every child, no matter their background, a chance to grow. We must invest in skill schools, make education free and practical, create programs where the rich sponsor innovations by the poor, make it easier for farmers to get seeds, for traders to get loans, for craftsmen to get tools. We must change how we think about power. Leadership is not just about ruling people, it's about lifting people." At this point, the crowd was no longer silent. Some elders began nodding deeply. Women clapped softly. Even some of the former suitors, now humbled, were whispering among themselves. Obinna looked around and added, "This is the bridge I believe the princess was speaking of. And if we can build it, we won't just have a strong kingdom, we will have a united one." The king slowly stood. "Obinna," he said with a quiet respect, "your words are heavy with truth." He turned to Adugo. "Daughter, what say you?" Adugo rose, grace in every movement. Her eyes met Obinna's and she smiled. Not the smile of a woman swept off her feet, but the smile of a queen who had finally found her equal. "I gave that task," she began, "because I have seen what poor leadership can do. I have seen leaders who were more interested in their own comfort than in the growth of their people. I did not want to be married to a title. I wanted to be partnered with a vision, someone who could see beyond riches and beauty and understand responsibility." She paused. "Obinna, you have seen it, you have felt it, and you understand it. This is not just about marrying me, it is about leading a people, and I am proud to say I will walk beside you." The crowd erupted, clapping, singing, shouting. Even the palace guards who once doubted him exchanged proud glances. The king raised both hands. "From this day forward," he declared, "Obinna, son of the soil, shall be crowned the next king, not by blood, but by wisdom." Celebrations began immediately. Drums echoed through the land. The people danced, not just for the wedding to come, but for the hope that was now alive in their hearts. And as the sun began to set that evening, Adugo and Obinna sat side by side on the palace steps, watching the people rejoice. No long speeches, no loud promises, just two people who understood the weight of the future and were ready to carry it together. And so the bridge was built, not with bricks, but with vision, not between lands, but between hearts, and the kingdom of Umuazubu was never the same again. And that, my dear viewers, is the story of Adugo and the bridge that changed a kingdom. A reminder that true leadership is not about noise, position, or show of strength, but about wisdom, vision, and the heart to serve. May we all be like Obinna, people who think deeply, act wisely, and build bridges that lift others. And may we also be like Adugo, people who value purpose over appearance and never settle for anything less than what is right. Because in the end, greatness isn't found in the throne, but in what we do with it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share with someone who needs a little reminder that wisdom still wins. And tell me in the comments, if you were in Adugo's shoes, what kind of test would you give to choose the right partner?